Good morning, friends. UFC 309, the Mecca, MSG, 13 fights. Jon Jones returns coming off of a significant injury where I believe his pec was torn off of his chest. He had to have surgery. He comes back and is taking on Stipe Miocic in a title fight that not many people want to see. We know Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones. That was the fight that should have been made, but here we are nonetheless. 13 fights. We do have a UFC pay-per-view before us, and looking forward to this card, looking forward to all that we have before us in New York City. So let's get things kicked off with the first fight of the night, where we have Veronica Hardy taking on Eduarda Moura. And when you look at this matchup here, Eduarda Moura is a huge fighter for the division here. Now she's coming up, and she missed weight last time out at strawweight against Diniz Gomes, and they looked like they were in completely different weight classes when you watched the Diniz Gomes fight. Now, she did lose that matchup. She's the self-professed female version of Jailton Almeida, and we know that she's going to make a conscious effort to get this fight to the mat against Veronica Hardy, who's had a few different careers inside of the UFC's octagon. We knew her as Veronica Macedo. She has been beaten and bloodied and taken a few losses, and now seems to have some semblance of a fight IQ. And that JJ Aldrich victory, I got to say, that was pretty impressive. She's high rolled a few wins together here, Veronica Hardy, and this fight, you look at these odds. Eduarda Moura sitting at -108. She was undefeated prior to taking on Diniz Gomes. I'm going to be picking Eduarda Moura here. I think that she has a bit more tools at her disposal. I think the heavy top position could be a real problem for Hardy. Now, Hardy does have those thick thighs and some hips that could cause Moura some issues if things don't go Moura's way. But I'm going to be picking Eduarda Moura to walk away victorious here, and it is a closely lined fight. Now, this is an interesting spot where we have Bassil Hafez taking on Oban Elliott. Oban Elliott, a Welsh fighter who we've seen him strike. We've seen the defensive grappling on display. We've seen cardio. And the Woodburn matchup, that's cause for concern here. If you're willing to back a -300 fighter against Val Woodburn put Oban Elliott on Queer Street and had his moments. Bassil Hafez, we saw a solid performance on short notice against JDM, stuck to the grappling, and grappling has always been JDM's kryptonite. Now he's taking on Oban Elliott here, who the defensive grappling has been something that he shines at. The Jack Shore and Shore family have shored up his defense, no pun intended. Now, Oban Elliott can strike, is the more fluid fighter here. Bassil Hafez, what can you say about the Gall performance? He was getting cracked, pieced up by Gall. Gall, though, was 1 or 2 strikes away of being finished. We saw Gall, his striking defense. Gall has a lot to work on. We'll talk about Gall in the next fight, but Bassil Hafez, physical specimen. You saw in his post-fight interview the veins popping out of his chest and his shoulders, and commitment to what he can control, right? In preparation for the octagon. Though he huffs and he puffs and he makes it across the finish line in most fights, this fight's expected to go to a decision. I'm not going to be going out of my way to lay minus 300 on Oban Elliott. I think that's a little extreme in this economy, but I will pick him to win this matchup. The tools are there, and the kryptonite of Hafez could be put into play here. The lack of head movement. Mickey Gall looked like a sniper out there. And if you're making Mickey Gall look like a sniper, a guy who has, I believe, no TKO victories, he almost put Hafez out. Give me Oban Elliott. Let's not overcomplicate things. Now, Mickey Gall, minus 140. Ramiz Brahimaj, who, it's interesting. Ramiz Brahimaj who's previously fought out of Fortis MMA. He's known for having his ear virtually torn off against Max Griffin. No semblance of striking defense. Court McGhee lit him up, showed us that the cardio was a real issue if he can't get the fight to the mat. And Mickey Gall is primarily a ground fighter, but has showed us some new wrinkles to his game. But Mickey Gall, we've seen him falter. He can look sharp early with 1-2s, and then the wheels start to fall off if he faces some adversity. He fought in Newark, I believe, last time out against Hafez and put up a solid performance. But look at those scorecards: unanimous decision losses, 30-27. Now Mickey Gall. I believe this is 3 consecutive losses. Now he gets another shot. He's a New Jersey fighter. Now, man, Brahimaj, if he gets in top position, Mickey Gall, his get-up game is atrocious. He cannot find his way to the fence to get back to his feet. He's comfortable losing minutes. Diego Sanchez took care of Mickey Gall, which is crazy at the stage of Diego Sanchez's career. Man, I'm going to be picking Mickey Gall here because of Brahimaj's one-dimensional game. He really brings nothing to the table other than a top-heavy grappling approach. And man, I just don't trust Brahimaj the longer the fight goes. I'm going to be picking Mickey Gall here, but both of these fighters have shown quit. Both of these fighters have shown an inability to get going when the going gets tough. So I'll be picking Mickey Gall, but dangerous fight. Let's say good morning to our friends in the chat here. By the way, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, liking the video, we are climbing the ladder here, brothers. You can feel it. Shady. Excellent. Moise, welcome aboard. Thank you for taking time out of your busy morning. Andrew, I'm glad to have you here. Ramiz, Albanian role player. Yeah. Good morning. Joke of a fight last night. How could anyone think? Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, we talk about that. Mickey, that Mike Tyson fight against Paul. What kind of punk picks a fight with a 58-year-old? Are you kidding me? Thank God I didn't watch that fight. All right. Now, let's get back to business here. Marcin Tybura taking on Janata Diniz. Janata Diniz coming in as the plus 105 underdog. Now, Diniz was supposed to take on the Black Beast, Derek Lewis, recently, and that fight got pulled. By the way, did we find out what medical issue Derek Lewis was dealing with? Now, heavyweights, so you don't have to worry about a significant weight cut. Both of these guys, Marcin Tybura and Diniz, sitting in the sitting in the 250-pound range. So it's not like they had to cut weight to make 266. And Tybura, flabby, both of these fighters carrying a lot of fat and disgusting heavyweights who are going to come out here. And at least Tybura, he could grapple if he wants to, but if he's unable to take Diniz to the mat, we've seen time and time again that he doesn't have what it takes. But lower level heavyweights here, and Tybura is a fighter who's had success against Hardy. By the way, Greg Hardy's man, he's really fallen off the map lately. Where's that inhaler, bro? Tybura here is getting up there in age, going to need to get his grappling going. I think that Diniz, with the full camp behind him, knowing that he was supposed to take on Derek Lewis poses a lot of power and threat as far as knockout potential goes. Tybura doesn't necessarily do that. I'll be picking the underdog, Diniz, here. But the thing is, Diniz doesn't necessarily have a very well-rounded game. So we are in for a slobber knocker and potentially an awful heavyweight fight. Yeah. Oh, he got stuck at Popeyes. Really? I didn't see that on my timeline. So give me Diniz to win that matchup. Now, David Onama takes on short notice replacement Roberto Romero, combate fighter. I watched back a few of his fights. I don't know how this guy got a contract. I mean, the odds suggest that, you know, he doesn't have much of a chance and he's a short notice replacement, but this is a guy who likes to push his opponents to the cage, doesn't necessarily pose a devastating knockout threat or a submission threat. And he's taking on Onama, who is a very dangerous fighter. And he's athletic, he's explosive, he can commit to his strikes and commit to the grappling. We saw against Nate the Train, this guy won't give up on himself. He'll be there until the final bell if he has to, and he will fight his ass off. So long story short, combate fighter Romero, young in the game, he's going to have to catch lightning in a bottle to take Onama out of there. I think that Onama is going to get this done inside the distance. The pace, the pressure, the volume of Onama are likely going to cause Romero some serious issues. Give me Onama to win and take a look at that inside the distance prop. Now, this is a weird fight here. Damon Jackson taking on Jim Miller. Jim Miller, by the way, Jim Miller, crazy stat, 45 UFC fights, has never missed weight in his entire UFC career. Incredible. Damon Jackson, minus 200 at the betting window. His look, his demeanor, his style has changed drastically. This is a guy who his hair was gone. He had a receding hairline, looked very different. Now he looks at peace. And we've seen in the PFL, he's been brutally knocked out by strikers who catch him off guard and are explosive. And Jim Miller's very explosive early in fights. Just something to consider. Jim Miller can come out here and catch Damon Jackson early. We've seen it happen many, many times. And Damon Jackson looked like he had a horrible, horrible weight cut. I have questions about Damon Jackson's cardio. I know that he is considered the leech, so if he does get this fight to the mat, Jim Miller is a credentialed black belt, and Jim Miller, I believe, has about 2 rounds of solid gas in him, and then both of these fighters, they may be treading water here, and it may become a war of attrition. I have real concerns about Jim Miller's weight cut here. Sorry, about Damon Jackson's weight cut. I'm really on the fence in this matchup. I think that if Damon Jackson is able to somehow find the back of Jim Miller and extend this fight, then that's his path to victory, a grappling heavy approach late. Oh man, this is a tough one. You know what? I'm going to pick Jim Miller. I'm going to pick Jim Miller to catch Damon Jackson with something. I just, that weight cut looked like it was really, really bothering Damon Jackson here. I know that Jim Miller could potentially run out of gas here. I've seen Jim Miller fight at MSG before a few different times, and he has the potential to get the leg kicks going early. Very, very explosive fighter, even at his old age. Let's see. You look at this. Jackson hasn't fought a southpaw since 2017. Moise, good point. Good point. And we saw Dan Ige. Others just poured on this guy. Disgusting. Damon, he had a bad hair day. He's going to go to sleep. Possibly. We made it on time. Chronic, welcome. Thank you for being here today. By the way, subscribe to the channel, like the video. I've been putting out content for almost a decade now, and third-party track for many, many, many years. I was over at the MMA Oddsbreaker channel. Love those guys there. Nickal and others. And I have transitioned to my own YouTube channel here, working my ass off every single week. And I want to thank you for tuning in. By the way, hey, you want to talk about somebody who's been working his ass off? Chris Weidman taking on Eric Anders. Both of these fighters are the epitome of class acts and people who work hard. If you want to watch a solid blood and guts performance, go back and watch Thiago Santos, who Eric Anders took the fight on short notice in Brazil, I believe, up a weight class. And that was a hell of a fight. And you saw the body just couldn't continue. The body is barely continuing on for Chris Weidman, he lost count at 30 surgeries. Chris Weidman, much more versatile fighter here. Ground game, striking, coming off of a win over Bruno Silva. I was at that fight in Atlantic City at Boardwalk Hall, and you watch Eric Anders. He has not evolved. He hasn't evolved. He's probably the easiest fighter in the UFC to game plan for. You watch back the Lyoto Machida fight. He has a 1-2, can push fighters against the cage when he gets fighters to the mat. Doesn't really do anything with it. The gas tank is an issue. The schedule for 15 minutes. I've been at a bunch of Chris Weidman fights in multiple venues in New York and New Jersey, and I have seen him barely come out of fights with a win. I've seen him submit fighters. I was at the Kelvin Gastelum fight. I was at his fight against, Jacare. He was winning the fight against Jacare, piecing Jacare up on the feet, and then got hit with a forehead punch, and his equilibrium was off, got finished there. The Yoel Romero fight blasted up the middle with the knee, one of the most explosive knees we've ever seen. And this Chris Weidman has taken so much damage through his career. The Brad Tavares fight, his first fight back after the loss to Anderson Silva, really looked bad. Really did not look good. Then the Bruno Silva fight, the striking defense was on display. The cardio was there. Looked great against Bruno Silva, but look what happened. Bruno Silva, he also had 1 foot left in the game. Now, Eric Anders, let's talk about this. Jamie Pickett gave Eric Anders a run for his money, okay? That is a red flag for me. I know it was a unanimous decision victory for Eric Anders in that spot, but I believe gone from fight ready Eric Anders, and I don't trust Eric Anders in this spot. I saw Chris Weidman at one point sitting at plus 144. I thought that was a solid line to lock in. And yes, there are some risks associated here with Weidman. Could he get his leg injured again? Could we see an in-fight injury? Yes. And all good things don't necessarily come to an end in a positive fashion here, but I'd like to see Chris Weidman stick to his strengths. He's a much better wrestler here. He also, I believe, has the better cardio here, better striker, but the striking defense is a cause for concern. And Eric Anders, southpaw, who could pose some stylistic threats if he's able to land a 1-2 on Weidman's chin. So give me Weidman to win. And I'm really looking forward to this fight. This is a fight that I put on my fridge and really looking forward to this one. Let's see what we got. Good morning. Good morning. It's go time. Evan, welcome. Thank you, Evan, for your support. Appreciate you. Hard work works, right? Let's see. Do you think the line? Why do you think that line flipped to Weidman? Well, I just explained that. Go get what's yours now. Let's talk. Let's talk some interesting fights here in Marcus McGhee taking on Jonathan Martinez. By the way, I believe our newly elected president will be at MSG tonight. How nice is it to have the support of the commander-in-chief? That will be fascinating if he's in the building, and I'm interested to hear the roar of the crowd at MSG. Marcus McGhee taking on Jonathan Martinez. Very, very interesting matchup. Marcus McGhee, who has had success on the regional scene and at the UFC level, got his shot and really showed us that he's a very versatile fighter, has solid cardio, can mix in the wrestling and the threat of a submission, has power when he commits to his strikes. And Jonathan Martinez, I've backed him in the past. I have seen his strengths. I've also identified his weaknesses. If you exchange with him in the pocket on the feet, he can be had. And also, from a grappling perspective, I thought he lost the fight against Said Nurmagomedov. I thought that was a shady decision there. Martinez, the kicking game, the fact that this takes place inside of a larger octagon is something that I take into consideration. It is a piece of the puzzle here. McGhee doesn't necessarily have the best footwork here. And if Martinez is able to stay at range, he could cause McGhee some problems here. I understand why folks are backing McGhee. They see some chinks in the armor of Jonathan Martinez, and they haven't necessarily seen that at the UFC level from Marcus McGhee, who's been looking like a world beater out there. But I'm going to be leaning towards the underdog here, Martinez. He's shown us who he is. The Almeida fight also, that was something that impressed me. He can face some dangerous opponents and come out the other side victorious. Give me Jonathan Martinez in this spot. Rolling with a bunch of underdogs here today, and I am interested to see how this plays out. The MSG crowd is oh, look at this. Moise, you're on. He's no MacGyver. Interesting. MSG crowd, if you're going to the fights tonight, I may be there. Get loud. Get loud. I want to hear you on the broadcast, okay? Let's talk Mauricio Ruffy, who is taking on Hafez Llontop. Now, Hafez Llontop, he's got the facial tattoos. What does that tell you? Does that tell you fight IQ, decision making is on par? I know Mike Tyson has some facial tattoos. We've seen others inside of the octagon with facial tattoos. And critical thinking skills, what does that tell you? Mauricio Ruffy minus 1,000. One of the more spectacular UFC debuts. Fighting Nerds, Mauricio Ruffy, who is what we saw inside of the octagon in his debut. That was one of the most spectacular UFC debuts we've ever seen, to be honest. I was blown away. But can he replicate that under the bright lights inside of Madison Square Garden against an opponent who, this is on the main card, mind you. It is wild. It is. Why did they choose this fight on the main card? I have to wonder what Dana was thinking. He might think that Mauricio Ruffy is going to be showing out and is going to be lighting up Hafez Llontop, and Llontop, I believe, is going to take the kitchen sink and he's going to keep marching forward. And this could be a recipe where we may see a doctor stoppage. We may see that's one thing about Llontop. He's, I believe, a Peruvian fighter who's tough as nails. And we've seen it on display. This is a catchweight fight. This is a fight where You saw Llontop miss weight, does look pudgy at this catch weight, which is another cause for concern. I think we're going to see a spectacular performance from Mauricio Ruffy, who is going to show us that he is ready to come out here and move on up. But at what cost, and how much of his clip is going to be emptied? And is he going to have to dig deep? Because we haven't seen it yet at this level. And does he have the output when Llontop keeps marching forward? That is what I'm looking forward to. Give me Mauricio Ruffy inside the distance there. Now, this is an interesting line fight. Carini Silva taking on Viviane Araujo. Araujo plus 245 at the betting window. Araujo, a well put together fighter who, you know, she's got the guns. She's got the guns. She also looks in great shape for this fight. She is a fighter who is very well-rounded and who has fought the who's who. Carini Silva, this is a big step up in competition. Carini Silva can clamp down on opponents and has a squeeze that you don't typically see. We've yet to see Viviane Araujo get submitted at the UFC level. Does Carini Silva have the gas to step on the pedal if this fight doesn't end up on the mat? I've seen a lot of kicks. I've seen her commit to her strikes, but not necessarily a volume approach. And Araujo is doing many of the right things inside of the octagon. We've seen against Amanda Ribas and others. She can hang. She can hang with a lot of opponents. And this is a show me spot for Carini Silva. I want to see, and I like what I've seen from her, but I want to see it again. I'm going to be picking Carini Silva. I think that if she's able to get top position here, she could really drain Viviane Araujo's gas tank. This is, by the way, November 21st. I would like to preemptively wish Viviane Araujo a happy 38th birthday. For someone in the UFC, that's a seasoned vet. That's somebody who's racking up the mileage. There's a lot of miles on that odometer, and she came into the UFC at a later age. She grew up as a soccer player. I've followed her career very, very closely. Araujo, I really like what she brings to the table. Very athletic fighter. I believe Toledo Bernardo was the debut where we saw the striking, beautiful striking. But give me Carini Silva to walk away victorious in that matchup. Hope I'm doing a solid job breaking down these fights for you. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, liking the video, we're on our way up, and let's keep this train rolling. Bo Nickal taking on Paul Craig. Paul Craig coming in as plus 850 at the betting window. This is a guy who defeated the greatest light heavyweight of all time in Magomed Ankalaev. He brutalized Jamal Hill, and if you get caught in his Venus trap of a triangle, you are in trouble. Bo Nickal minus 1,500. I think that is crazy. Paul Craig has shown us that he can submit anyone, but Paul Craig is somebody who is starting to really, you look at his nose, the way it's now on the other side of his face. This is a guy who the mileage is starting to rack up for him as well. How many submissions does he have in his arsenal here? The Kennedy Zachukwu win. We've seen, even when he's on the brink of defeat, he's still capable of throwing up a submission. Bo Nickal is going to have to tread with caution here, because if he overcommits on a strike or has one false move, Craig could lock something up. I mean, we've shown that he's capable of doing that, and it only takes a second or two to get the tap when they're locked in there, or he ends up brutalizing, breaking arms, etc. So dangerous fight. I don't recommend anybody lay minus 1,500 on any fighter, but Paul Craig's shown that he has some issues with the striking defense. And if Nickal ends up trading on the feet, that is the path to victory here. I think that Nickal wins this fight via knockout. Now, let's see. Karimi Silva will be the parlay buster of the week. You may be onto something, Ryan. One fight at a time. And boys, let's see. Betting Paul Craig, round 3 submission. You never know, man. Plus 550. Wow, you never know. But I think the real the high improbability and likelihood here, good morning, Jake, is that Bo Nickal wins this fight via knockout. I think that's the highest probable outcome. So take a look at that prop. Now, you want to talk a fight. By the way, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thank you. Props to you. I'm here. I'm fired up. I'm ready for this. Let's go. Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler. This is what we're here for. Charles Oliveira, co-main event, 5 rounds. Mike Chandler, 38 years old, Iron Mike, taking on Charles Oliveira at 155 pounds. Both of these fighters, finishers. Both of these fighters are championship caliber. We've seen in Bellator, Michael Chandler, he is going to bring it. He's going to go for it. He's had 2+ years off, was chasing that Conor McGregor fight. Didn't happen. We've seen he was on the brink of disposing of Charles Oliveira, wasn't able to get it done. And Charles Oliveira coming in here, dangerous fighter, knows that he can take Michael Chandler out, was able to lock in a rear naked choke. And you saw the athleticism of Michael Chandler jumping to his back. And, you know, you try that on somebody in the training room, you could potentially knock them out. And that's a dangerous move. It's a very dangerous move. But also, he showed you that he's willing to risk it all in there, and he will go out on his shield. I was completely shocked that Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler went the full 15 minutes. Both of those guys trading bombs. And you saw that win or lose, Michael Chandler is willing to be a highlight. And he's willing to be in someone's highlight reel. This is his, I believe, 3rd time that he's competing inside of Madison Square Garden. He has the explosiveness to get to Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira showed us that this guy puts everything into his weight cuts. He drains himself. The guy looks like Skeletor almost every time he ends up on the scales. And he can check out of fights. I know he's shown us he's able to overcome adversity, but he also has been on the brink. The guy was on all 4s, moving his head, barely surviving, and ended up turning the tide and beating Michael Chandler. Now, this fight, I don't think Chandler has the gas to go more than 3 rounds here. Whose idea was it to book this for 5 rounds? I believe somebody's getting finished here, and it may only take a couple of strikes. We've seen Chandler get wobbled with that left hook, that beautiful left hook of Oliveira. And we've also seen Oliveira get put in some serious trouble through the years on the feet. Man, tough fight to call. I believe that a lot of unders are going to hit here. It amazes me that the under 1.5 is sitting at minus 115, 113, 120-ish. In this spot, especially in front of a raucous Madison Square Garden crowd, I think that this fight doesn't make it to the championship rounds, doesn't make it to round 4 or round 5. Man, I'm going to be picking Charles Oliveira here. Michael Chandler, the submission defense is going to be put to the test. I believe that you saw in the opening few seconds, Charles Oliveira was able to take Michael Chandler's back. And that is a dangerous proposition here to survive. Oh, look at this. Charles Oliveira, power slap in UFC will be a merger. Oh, wow. What a waste of 2 years. Yes, I agree. Michael Chandler, great fighter, but every time he talks, it sounds like he's cutting a promo. Hey, sometimes folks have said that about me on my Twitter posts, but hey, I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. You gotta walk the talk. You gotta walk the walk and talk the talk, brother. So give me Charles Oliveira. And Michael Chandler is willing to do that. We've seen he's gone out on his shield, the swelling of his face. Man, this guy will fight tooth and nail too. The Poirier fight, having success early. Man, give me Oliveira in that matchup, though. Dangerous fight. Now, main event of the evening. I opened the broadcast talking about how Jon Jones was coming off of a serious injury that canceled the fight the first time. Now, I was on Jon Jones last time, I believe at the minus 400-ish level. Look at this. Now he's out to minus 700 the second time this gets booked. By the way, you watch the weigh-ins. Stipe Miocic looks like he's in phenomenal shape. I know he's in his early 40s here, former champion, brutally knocked out last time out against Francis Ngannou, hasn't competed in over 3 years. What is going on here? Aspinall should have been the fight, but that didn't happen. This is a longer layoff than Jon Jones took when he came up to heavyweight to face Cyril Gane. So who knows what we're going to get here? This is a massively wide lined fight here. Jon Jones minus 700. That's wild to me. Jon Jones has the potential to fight safe, only 237 pounds. So he lost some of the weight that he initially put on to face Cyril Gane, which means I believe he's going to look to strike here and look to strike at range for significant lengths of time. And he's got those long arms, those massively long arms who we know they went back to the old gloves, right? He's going to be poking the eyes of Miocic. And Miocic has had some serious problems in the past against Daniel Cormier with eye pokes. It takes one or two of them to throw him off of his game. And that's scary to me. I hope whoever is refereeing the fight tonight that no hard warnings, deduct a point early and often. And Miocic could potentially become live in this fight. Man, I think the pec injury, and I don't think that's been baked into the capping process of many of the folks out here in the MMA handicapping world. Jon Jones, I will say this, though, that he is the epitome of a competitor. He's going to do whatever it takes to win at all costs. He's shown that he's willing to take PEDs to try to beat Daniel Cormier. He's shown that he's willing to not take risks and move an entire UFC card when he couldn't get the fight that he wanted. The Chael Sonnen matchup wouldn't take Chael Sonnen on short notice. Now the gloves change. The Dominic Reyes fight will not let himself believe that he loses in any capacity. And you saw the narrative here is we are going to celebrate the greatness of Jon Jones, the greatest of all time. We're going to run with that narrative. We're going to completely ignore that Tom Aspinall is the number one contender and I believe would beat Jon Jones at this stage in his career. But we have to settle for a fight with Stipe Miocic, who I hope he makes it competitive. I would like to see Jon Jones take a loss. I think that could be a real dose of humility that's needed at this stage in his career. We haven't necessarily seen it. He's riding the high horse here. Jon Jones, though, he's going to be my pick. I think that just when you talk about a person who's willing to move mountains to try to win, willing to take PEDs, willing to cheat multiple times under the bright lights. I mean, we saw Daniel Cormier was a real threat to him, and he was willing to cheat to try to win. So give me Jon Jones to win this fight. How does he get it done, though? Stay in the fight. Yes, that is what Miocic is going to have to do. He looks like he's in great shape. I hope that Miocic makes this a fight. I would make me so happy. We need to see Aspinall fight for the undisputed championship next. Now, I ask of you, which heavyweight belt carries more weight? The interim title right now that Aspinall holds, or the belt that Jon Jones holds, where he hasn't defended the heavyweight title, and he leaves a light heavyweight division where you have Magomed Ankalaev, who I believe Ankalaev would destroy Jon Jones right now, and also would just destroy Jon Jones at light heavyweight as well. They are keeping Magomed Ankalaev away from Alex Pereira, and many others. He's the real threat to a lot of these fighters. But give me Jones to win. Now, does he do it via decision or does he get it done inside the distance? That's the question. I think he wins a decision here. Miocic looks like he's in great shape. And does John Jones, has he ever shown us that he has the power to knock people out on the feet? I know that head kick against Cormier was an issue, but I don't think that it makes sense. I don't think that he's going to do it. That one that Francis holds, yeah, he's the linear champ. It's funny how this fight game works, right? Wow. Well, hey, we got almost 30 people in here right now, and that's live. We're gonna keep marching forward. By the way, you have any questions? Throw them in the chat. We will march on forward. I'll stick around an extra few minutes, and we'll talk about fight cards that we have coming up in the near future. By the way, we've got UFC Macau coming up. Devison Figueiredo taking on Piotr Yan. We have, Bilal Muhammad, UFC 310 gets pulled. We've got lots of fights on the horizon, and we're going to march through one fight at a time. Only 4 events left in UFC in 2024. Can't wait. I'm going to get ready to hit the road. We have this stream 41 minutes. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Remember to go get what's yours. Appreciate each and every one of you. And let's do this, baby. Let's go.